welcome everybody to the International L&D Survey's introduction. Welcome on behalf of DEVELOR. This is the Rethink HR webinar series. This is our 17th in the series. Welcome to all of you. And I would like to just invite you for another small activity at the beginning. Can you please use and mark your location now? So where are you calling now? Mark on the map. You can use the view options and the annotation and stamp for that. For someone who's calling from Croatia or Slovenia, it's difficult because it's such a small dot on the map. If you are calling from Egypt, you are having better chances to mark yourself. Yes, there are some people from Poland. There are some people from Austria. I see Slovenia on the map. I see Georgia on the map. We are 205 people. I really want to see where you are calling from. Ukraine is on the map as well. So where are you? Yeah, exactly marked. Yes. And I would like to ask Flora and my other colleagues to let everybody in from the waiting room. So where are you calling now, guys? Can you please mark on the map? Iran, I'm not sure, but there are interesting lines next to Iran. Yes, Central Asia is represented as well. Kazakhstan and then next to Kazakhstan, yeah. Azerbaijan checked in. Kiev, thank you very much for writing there, Tatiana. Another minute to see where we are calling from. So Central Europe and Central Asia is pretty much represented here. Thank you everybody for joining us. Sala Yoshi joining from Central Asia. Okay, Hungarian name marked towards Kazakhstan. Surprising thing. Okay, thank you so much. You can stop now. You can stop now. We would like to move on. So thank you so much for checking in from Central and Eastern Europe, Ukraine, and Central Asia. Some of the countries from Egypt, I see. Even West Africa, I see a sign there. I don't know whether it's a mistake or it's on purpose. So EMEA region is pretty much represented here. I would like to just move on and thank you very much for checking in visually as well. I would like to ask Réka to clear the screen. My name is Csaba Szabó. On behalf of my colleague from DEVELOR, from the 16 countries, I would like to welcome you on this webinar. I'm the country head of DEVELOR Hungary, and I'm really happy to be with you, 218 people on this call. This is the crystal ball, and everybody is really interested in looking into the future and try to clarify the future for yourself and for your company, for your industry, for your function, what to do in learning and development, what the trends are in learning and development, how we can get prepared for the changes in learning and development. And I think this is the need we are trying to service here and satisfy here, because everybody is interested in the trends, the novelties, and everybody's interested what the other does and what the other people do, what the other companies are doing on this film, and everybody would like to keep up with the changes and the latest trends. And we bring you the crystal ball. You will be able to look into the future with our help. And the help what people provided us from several countries in the EMEA region. And our colleague and our keynote speakers today, Réka Greff, who's going to introduce to you some of the key findings of the International Learning and Development Survey we just finished recently. Réka is the head of learning experience in DEVELOR International, and she will be our host today. She will present the key results and key findings of this report. And we also invited two guests, and welcome Lilyana and welcome Zoltán, who will help us to look into the crystal ball and to clarify some of the foggy and misty and fuzzy pieces of this picture. I would like to introduce to you Lilyana Dimitrova from Nestle. She is the Learning and Development Manager for this company. She's heading the Southeast Europe region of this learning and development function. Southeast Europe consists of the ex-Yugoslavian countries, all of them, and she's also responsible for Bulgaria and Romania, and now she's calling from Bulgaria today. And I would like to also welcome good old friend from university times, Zoltán, Széni. We haven't met in the past many years, so good to see you again here, and welcome. Zoltán is the EPAM system vice president responsible for head of people in the EMEA region, and probably it's not a well-known consumer brand compared to Nestle. Probably Nestle, everybody knows, and you are using the products of Nestle every day. While EPAM system probably requires a little bit of explanation. It's an IT company. It's a global IT company working in 55 countries globally and employs 53,000 people across the globe. So Zoltán is representing this company, and they will help us to introduce the details and give some background and their perception and their views behind the data, what Réka will introduce to us. Moving on, I would like to just introduce to you a few ideas what the scientists say about the learning and development profession nowadays. And the source of these quotes are the 100 Jobs of the Future, developed by 2 Australian universities and supported by Ford Motor Company. So what the futurists say about the learning and development industry. They observe that the number of internet courses are increasingly dramatically. They observe that it has been doubled in the last 2 years. So more and more internal learning is happening within the companies. Also, they say, if they look into the crystal ball, they see that 65% of today's school children will have jobs that don't even exist now. How they came up with this figure, I have no idea. But I think we can take away the message that there are jobs are born day by day. For example, the prompt engineer term, I think I've never heard before ChatGPT arrived to the consumer market as well. So prompt engineer, for example, it's a new job. It wasn't existing in past 2 years. It wasn't existing before ChatGPT came into the picture. It shows that new jobs are appearing on the market. And the other interesting data I found in this survey that in 15 years, 30% of working time can be spent on learning and training. So it really shows that the learning and development as an industry, as a sector, as a profession, has an increasing role to support growth and keep up with the changes of the world today. And I brought you some of the other factors that I see impacting our industry and the learning and development. For example, we are experiencing lots of changes and uncertainty, which really impacts the mental health of our people and also creates a lot of anxiety. So it really impacts our participants at training courses or the company employees, who we are developing. In many countries, we experience there's a lack of skilled workforce. So learning and development in several cases has got to contribute to engagement and retention of workforce. Upskilling and reskilling is required to keep up with the constant changes and fast changes of the environment. So we've got a role to get our participants and get the workforce prepared for new challenges coming from the technology, coming from the environment. And in many countries in the region, we are seeing a recession, and we, as the learning and development professionals, we've got to work with smaller budgets, or sometimes even with zero budget, with using the own resources to satisfy the needs of leaders and employees. And also the other phenomenon I brought here, that there's a shortening attention span. We are competing with TikTok videos. We are competing with the video games. We are competing with Nestle for attention. And this is the change we've got to factor into our programs, whatever we are providing. And artificial intelligence impacts every piece of our life, including our industry as well. And these are the changes, some of the changes that I just highlighted, we've got to keep pace with. And what did you say? What did the survey people say about 2024? I just brought a few quotes for you just to paint a picture about 2024 and the learning and development industry. One of the interviewees said that the management is aware of the importance of learning these days, which just reflects what the scientists said and what I quoted earlier. The other quote said that working with Gen Z has less advantages and more difficulties. I think this is the other one phenomenon we've got to face with and support people and especially managers to cope up with the generation and multi-generational workforce challenge. Keep it up. It will be a tough year for all of us, said someone from a manufacturing business who already experienced some difficulties on their specific industry and market. Car manufacturing businesses have to be resilient in 2024 in the CEE region. Other learning and development professionals said, again, car manufacturing is impacted with the recession, and some of the manufacturers and the participants in this industry already has got some challenges today and 2024. Online skill development does not work in my experience. So we tested for some years, it was 100% online skill development. Some people are really frustrated about that, and they say that it just doesn't work. So these are the quotes, and these are the opinions about 2024 taken from the interviewees. Moving on, talking about now our survey, what we just completed. Why did we do that? Why did we invest so much time and effort to bring up data for you? Because we wanted to provide you with help, with up-to-date information about the learning and development trends in the EMEA region. You see, the picture is really foggy and fuzzy. There's a lot of rumors and myths about learning and development, and we wanted to bring you some data, some facts to paint a clearer picture about this industry. And also, there are lots of data and lots of surveys in the US, and we wanted to create something more relevant to you since we are operating in the EMEA region. So we collected EMEA opinions, and we collected EMEA data for you to get inspiration, to get some guideline, to get a compass for your decisions, and also to get inspired. That's why we invested time and effort to this report. And we are committed to move on, and this is our first report and first survey, but we love it so much and we find the data so valuable that we are committed that we will continue year by year, and we are going to move on to create the learning and development kaleidoscope for the later years as well. We are working on a report, and you see today the first results of this survey. And why is it a kaleidoscope? The report is just put together, and it will take a few more weeks to finalize it for us. But let me just read the preface of this report. Why is it a kaleidoscope for us? And it says, the survey results in our report is just like a magical kaleidoscope. At each turn, it paints a new and exciting picture of the current trends and priorities in the field of learning and development. Just as with the kaleidoscope, as you use it, our report also shows the information continuously changes and takes on new forms, allowing everyone to find something interesting and useful. The field of learning and development, along with the information coming from the 11 countries we have studied, it also made up many small details, just like the many small pieces in the kaleidoscope that create the magical whole picture. So that's why it's a kaleidoscope, and we are committed to continue our survey in the next years, and we are committed to distribute the reports to everyone who completed the survey. And thank you so much for your contribution for the results. What we are going to talk about, it's a survey conducted in 11 countries, starting in December and finishing in March, just recently. I'm happy to announce that it's a surprising fact that we got so many responses. We'll see the result of 1,700 responses, and we also conducted 200 plus in-depth interviews in these countries. So What you are going to see now, the first presentation of these results in the EMEA region of these responses. And the survey covers pretty much all the size of the companies. You can see it's a pretty even distribution from small companies, 100 and less people, to more than 10,000 people, large corporations as well. So now let's look into the kaleidoscope. Let's see the details and let's see the big picture based on that. I'm passing over to Réka, Greff, and I would like to invite you on the stage and also our guests to look at the data and comment the results.
Thank you so much, Csaba, and let me welcome everybody on my side as well. Csaba has already mentioned some of the trends that we see in learning and development and HR in 2024. So now let's take a deeper dive and let me share with you the results and what our respondents said about these trends. So the first topic was top strategic priorities for HR, meaning what will be the top strategic priorities for HR in your organization in 2024. Respondents had to choose from at least maximum 3 answers from these topics. And to be honest, as you see, I highlighted some of the most interesting parts of it. We can say that engagement and retention is still, and it is remaining on the top of the priorities for HR and learning and development. And why I'm highlighting that it remained the same, because if we look back to before COVID era, and we experienced first the Great Resignation trend, which started before COVID and lasted until 2021, then it was followed by the so-called quiet quitting, when even though people did not quit the organization, but just stayed there, but their hearts and mental capacities were elsewhere, showed that it is really difficult to keep the employees, keep the engagement of the colleagues. So for me, it was not surprised that it is still a topic. And it is closely related to talent recruitment and development, which, as you see, came out on the 3rd place in this survey. Again, keeping and recruiting talented people are interrelated and also related to leadership development, which came out the 2nd place, because I truly believe that leaders have the key role in employee retention and keeping the engagement of the colleagues high. So in terms of these results, I can say that our respondents emphasize those messages that we experiencing for in the last couple of years, and what Csaba already mentioned. What was also very significant, and you can see it around the middle of the results, is digitalization and AI. So again, we are living in the era of the 5th industrial revolution, where the technological advancements and the appearance of AI in our life is so significant that even though it's in front of us and companies feel and sense that they have to do something about that, the skill gap is still there. So again, digital skills and AI skills are crucial nowadays. And I wouldn't be surprised if this strategic priority will, climb up to the ladder in the next years when we repeat this survey. And also upskilling and reskilling, as Csaba mentioned. So based on the last year's Future of Jobs report of the World Economic Forum, they predict that approximately 85 million jobs will disappear and around 60 million will be created in the next 5 years. So upskilling and reskilling of colleagues, most cases in digital or AI skills, are still on the top priorities. And so this is what our respondents said. I'm very interested in the opinion of our guests about these topics. So let me ask first Lilyana. So how do you see, Lilyana? So what are the biggest challenges or the top priorities at Nestle for this year?
Hello all from my side as well. Thank you, Réka. I would say they're quite similar to what you are sharing now on the screen. Maybe not in the exact order, but for sure we have them all. And as you mentioned really well, the war for talents is not is actually something that is still stays on top of the agenda in all of the companies, and it's like a top priority. But what I observed in the last years is that it's not only the talents that we are missing, but we start to struggle with even finding employees to start working in our companies. We feel this very much in our production premises, I would say, where we really need people that are working with the machines. And here, I would say we can focus our forces to this upskilling and reskilling of our colleagues. So, yeah.
So it means what I understand from you is that it is all of this topic resonate to you in Nestle. So it's really relevant.
Absolutely, absolutely, really relevant. As I said, it could be not in the exact order, but for sure we have them all. We have the engagement and retention, we have the development of the people, we have even these new trends that are coming with the chat GPT and all digitalization. And if I can add, it's also very important for our again production premises where we have people that are not that digitalized, I would say. And it's really again coming to this upskilling and reskilling where we need to actually help these people to start learning new technologies in order to execute their work better.
Yes, thank you. And I can totally relate to that because what we hear and also some other researches show that the digital skills gap, meaning the current competencies of the colleagues and whatever technology can offer is a widening gap. So it's even more difficult to keep up. So even though the company would like to improve digitally or AI, the employees have to catch up for those skills. Okay. Thank you, Lilyana. Zoltán, how about you? How about your challenges at your company?
Yeah, I would say that what you see in the survey results certainly resonates with me as well. What I could offer is maybe connecting a bit the dot between some of the items you have on the list, because engagement and retention clearly stays on top, or one of the top items. But if you go down one level and try to understand what is really crucial for engagement, what we find is that with this hybrid, often remote environment, the sense of belonging significantly shifted. And as a result, when you are looking into the tools and techniques and solutions to enhance engagement, a lot of the things are really related to what kind of leadership you need. How do you shape organizational culture? How do you build teams in an environment where a lot of times people do work in remote setups, even 2-3 years after COVID? That's one of the big choices companies have to make. To what extent you actually push people returning to the office or allow them more flexibility and end up with working them remotely. I think most companies are ending up with some kind of a hybrid model, and how do you manage this is an interesting challenge. And when you talk about leadership development, it is primarily around how do you lead in this kind of different environment, what it actually means in this kind of context to build a team, drive organizational transformation. And then the last bit I would comment on is AI. I think this is a fancy topic. You can imagine that for me, working in a tech company, this is something we discuss every day. I still feel it's a bit of a, like some people say, like teenage sex, that everybody's talking about this, but nobody is actually doing it, or very few. I think that's probably the current reality. But when you talk about leadership development in that context, it's really, really important to develop leaders who understand the implication of some of these technological changes and how they make decisions in a different kind of context when there is much more data available, when you can use artificial intelligence for a lot of predictions and decision making as well. So yeah, I think those are some of the key observations I would add to the survey results.
Thank you, Zoltán. You also mentioned some really key points here, because this hybrid operation has stayed with us after COVID. So even though we could go back to office, in many cases, companies just decided not to. And this is an extra challenge for the leaders as well to manage in this kind of environment. Lilyana, just one more question to you, that in terms of leadership, what are the challenges that you face mostly in Nestle, or the leaders in Nestle face nowadays?
I think that I can again relate the question, actually my answer, to the engagement and retention, because you know, it's really key to find the best candidate, to motivate this person, to make it part of the team, to give him the opportunity to develop and to do the best. And at some point, maybe this person will leave, and you need to start all over again. And this is really a struggle for the leaders, and it could even lead to some demotivation in them. Mm-hmm. So I think it's, if it's not the biggest struggle, for sure it's one of the most critical for our leaders.
Yeah, and it's a challenge, but also a question of budget as well, because replacing someone and then training and then recruiting, exactly, is also kind of, it's not only the personal, but also the financial aspect of it is also there.
For sure, there are a lot of efforts that are put in each and every newcomer in the organization. As you said, the onboarding period is something that it's related actually to a lot of time and efforts, not only from the leader, but from the team as well, in order this person to start working on the same level as the rest of the team. So it's really something that we need to pay attention, and we pay attention a lot. Actually, we do work a lot in this.
Yeah, and I believe that most of due to the more complex skill set, it takes a longer time for a newcomer to start operating as 100%. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And this will lead us to the next question in the survey and the next topic, meaning the training topics, the most important, hot and needed training topics in 2024, which on the one hand caused us some surprise and some was not surprising. Let me put it this way, because I believe if you look at these numbers, communication is usually a key topic we needed everywhere. So it was not that surprising for us, to be honest. Leadership also kind of was a consequence from the top priorities and strategic importance for HR. But what was really surprising, though, is that resilience and well-being came out as the first from this pretty comprehensive list. So I believe, and this is really interesting to see that in the world of artificial intelligence, it seems that we should emphasize and put some focus on the human soul and mental and emotional well-being as well. So it was really interesting to see this result. And let me address this question first to my colleague Csaba. So how do you see that, and what do you think that contributes to this result and the importance of resilience and well-being nowadays?
Yeah, we perceive that, and we feel that because many of the requests coming on this topic, and there are a few rationale why our customers are requiring this topic and why they want to support their colleagues for resilience and well-being. I think number one is that we are experiencing a very rapidly changing Bonnie world, and probably everybody by now is familiar with this VUCA Bonnie term. So it's a very rapidly changing world, and you've got to adapt to new situations. And actually, change fatigue, I think it's around, and probably that's why people really need some support on resilience. And well-being became one of the focus area actually in these days. And don't forget, there's an economic crisis. There's recession in some countries. So anxiety, feeling insecurity, it's around us. And also, don't forget that there's a war in Ukraine, and there's a war in Israel. So the anxiety of feeling insecure with these constant changes, people really require some kind of support. And this is what we can provide them in terms of the resilience training or focusing on well-being programs. And this is what we are doing in our countries.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Csaba. And here again, let me ask my guest, Zoltán, this time first. So to what extent do you experience that in EPAM, or do you experience that at all, this issue of well-being and mental health?
Oh, absolutely we do. And that would certainly come top of my list as well. Two things I would add about resilience that wasn't mentioned so far. One is that I think Csaba mentioned that we had to deal with COVID, the pandemic, lockdowns, and then we have wars going on, the economic situation. I think what we experience in our life is probably something that we haven't experienced, is that it's not like a short period of time when you need to work under a lot of stress, because that's something we are used to. So if they say, yeah, you look forward to a really difficult next couple of weeks or couple of months, I think people usually learn how to cope with this, or maybe you learn a lesson and next time you do it better. But coping with that for 2-3 years continuously, that's a different kind of stress and different kind of situation that many of us haven't been dealing with in our lives. So I think that gives a very different spin to what resilience means and how you are coping with it. And I think most of the people are trying to figure out how to deal with this now. And the second interesting aspect of resilience is that while all these challenges are valid, we need to add the complexity of remote work as well, because oftentimes what you see is colleagues on a screen. And when you ask, like, how are you doing? You usually get a smile and they say, I'm doing fine, but you don't really know how they are really doing and whether they are sharing that with you. So when you work in a physical environment, when teams are meeting day by day, you see by the coffee machine that someone is looking exhausted or tired, or even physical signs of burning out. But in this kind of remote environment, a lot of things are happening through computer screens. It's much more difficult to figure out how people actually feel, and when they are reaching that limit, when they really need an intervention or maybe even a radical change. So when we talk about resilience, I think it's important we see that in that kind of context, that in this remote or hybrid working environment, it's even more challenging, and the nature of the burnout and physical stress is very different than the years before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and not to mention the Zoom fatigue or the meeting fatigue of online meetings. Even though you see each other, people just got really tired and fed up sometimes with looking at a screen and not
exactly
in a three dimension, and just having a look at people with like this tiny pictures, and this is the old context. And Zoltán, do you have any programs or what any interventions in EPAM to address this mental?
Yeah, we keep trying. I would say that we keep experimenting and learning from the mistakes we make and learning from the feedback we are getting from people. It's really interesting to see these waves, because when we had to move remote, I think we did that miraculously well, and people were really excited about virtual wine tasting and all those kind of things, and it was cool. But then a year later, when we tried to do something like this, people said, oh, no more virtual wine tasting, please, no more virtual town hall, no more this, no more that. So then you're like, okay, so then what do I pull out from the toolbox? And then you try experimenting with things. But I think it's a constant challenge how to engage people and build that sense of belonging and community when you work in a hybrid setup. And in our case, what adds to the complexity is that by default, most of our projects are actually cross-border and global, and they are teams and individuals working on it in multiple different countries. So even if we would say, let's meet tomorrow in the office, it would be a challenge because oftentimes we are not actually sitting in the same location. So I would say we are constantly experimenting and encourage people to feel safe about trying different things, encourage managers to come up with their ideas. We constantly look at, what they are doing. We just, recently created we call it a cookbook. We looked at the results of our engagement survey, and we looked at those particular teams that had the highest engagement score. And then we interviewed their managers and asked them, what is it that they're actually doing that maybe makes them, work so successfully. And then we interviewed the teams as well. And then from those, we try to create some recipes for success. But I think one of the caveats is, of course, like with cooking, is that you might have different tastes. Some people like spicy, some people not so much. But that's our approach, is constantly experimenting, trying new things and learning from that experience.
Yeah, and sharing the best practices these teams have. Yes. Okay, thank you. Lilyana, how about you and Nestle? What is the situation there?
Just I can compliment on what already has been said. I don't think that we are a bit different from the rest. It's again top of the agenda is mental health. So we have maybe two activities that are really straightforward to mental health and well-being of our employees. One is called the Employee Assistance Program, which we started to use in COVID. And what actually is giving this program to our employees is a free professional psychotherapist sessions. So on every topic, actually, they want to discuss with the psychotherapist. And it's really well perceived, and already for third year, we are using this in our market. And as well, again, based on one survey that we have locally, we start one program together with DEVELOR, but with DEVELOR Ukraine, I would say, about mental health and integration. And after this program finishes, actually, it will finish with a massive training campaign that is for our leaders and employees. So these are the concrete actions that we are doing now in order to somehow support the mental health and well-being of our employees.
Thank you. So it's great to hear that you're addressing this issue from several angles. So you mentioned the employee assistance program with professional psychologists help, and also some other support with us or with external companies to help people keep their resilience.
Yeah.
Okay, super. Now, I would like to address one more topic from this list. And in the previous slide, we talked about the importance of digital mindset, artificial intelligence, but there is one more thing that I highlighted with red, is the green mindset, this eco-friendliness topic, which again was a surprise, but it pretty much in a negative way for us a bit, because besides AI, I believe that this climate change and fear of the consequences of climate change is all over us nowadays. So compared to that, for me, it was a bit interesting to see, and a bit sad to see that green mindset or this green approach, climate conscious approach was pretty much down the list. So let me drop this question to every one of you, to the audience. So what do you think is the reason that, for example, this green mindset or climate consciousness is a bit lower on the list? Use the chat. I stopped my screen sharing. I'm really interested in your ideas. So what do you think? Why is it so down the list? What do you think? Please write your opinions in the chat. Anyone who has some ideas or any comment on that? Maybe it's just me who it was a surprise.
Yeah, and answers are coming now.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. Board of owners are interested in owning profits, still connected to education, not being addressed enough internally in the companies. The urgency of the problem is not perceived. I'm reading out some of the comments here. More and more people have become eco-conscious, and there is no such a vast need for that. Yeah, maybe it's a bit lower in the priority list, or it's not such a burning issue at a company compared to retention, for example, and leadership management. Okay, it is important, but not such high priority. Company needs focus on most business relevant topics in terms of budget. Maybe people do not have time for ESG. More important topics like well-being. Okay, probably not enough information. Yeah, I think these are all relevant. So maybe this topic is not yet that important, or I can totally imagine that people think or HR think that it's not a training topic, or it's not their job to solve this this issue, for example. But here again, there can be some topics or mindset shift that could come into the portfolio of companies. But again, based on poor understanding of managers, I'm still cherry picking some of the answers. So I hope that this topic will still remain with us and gain a higher significance and higher importance in the upcoming years when we repeat the survey. So I would be really happy to see this topic a bit higher in the hierarchy of the results in next years. Okay, let's move on to the next question and the next topic, which was the combination of online versus offline learning elements. So the question was that when you plan learning and development programs, what will be the combination of online or offline elements in our view? So here again, what we can say is that even though after COVID, we could have gone back to fully offline and classroom trainings, somehow it didn't happen. But as you can see here is the ratio between the online and offline elements is pretty much half and half in this case. So here again, let me ask our guests. So what is the common practice at your company related to online and offline training courses? So now we are talking about training courses, and I would be mainly interested in your experience with the online trainings, their efficiency, and the general opinion of you about the online training. So Lilyana, can we start with you this time?
Sure. I would say that we use the combination approach as well. Whenever we can make a face-to-face training, we do so. But in our environment, when we are collaborating a lot of countries and the employees are in every of these countries, the much more easy and more effective is actually to use the online trainings. And to be honest, I really think that the online trainings are doing a great job. And if we use them in the right way, if we have the combination of a skilled trainer which is using the tools that we have for online trainings, it can really be a great learning experience for the audience. And the other thing that I was also thinking is that it's good these online trainings not to be that long as the face-to-face learning. Usually the face-to-face wordings are a half day or a full day. When we speak about online training, the maximum should be not more than 4 hours. And even 4 hours would be even much, but let's say that this is something that is like optimum. So yeah, I would say that the online trainings are something good, but they should be used in the right way and to keep the important rules, let's say, in order to make them effective.
Okay, thank you. And it is also, related to what Csaba mentioned at the beginning, that sometimes, respondents didn't find online learning or online trainings that effective. But what you have mentioned just reassure that, yes, it has many advantages unless it's used properly, and interaction and interactivity and all those things are assured that makes people keep attention or pay attention and remain engaged in that.
Yeah.
Zoltán, what is the situation in EPAM? You mentioned that in this hybrid world, you are also used to the online solutions, but what is the case if it comes to training?
I think we are unique in that sense for a number of reasons. One is that as a technology company, the shelf life of knowledge for people is very, very short. So for us, if you just blink and then there is a new piece of technology, something new you need to get familiar with. So speed is really, really important. And that pushes for more online solutions and self-service and flexibility to provide that kind of training. That's very difficult to do that in a physical or classroom type of environment. The second thing that is probably even more unique to EPAM itself is, given that we are developing technology solutions, we are actually investing a lot and doing a lot of this in the learning space for our clients as well. So we have actually quite a state-of-the-art, internal infrastructure that, we built for delivering those kind of online programs. And we have the privilege of relying on those. And of course, the trap with this is that if you get used to this and you keep, using it all the time, and then you keep improving some of the KPIs around learning, cost per learning hour, and so on, it's really difficult to switch back. And this is what we see, that we are extremely efficient with delivering a lot of this online. And in the current economic environment, a lot of people are conscious of cost. It's much more difficult to argue for not doing things face to face and returning to that kind of physical environment. But at the same time, this is what people demand. And I did talk about, how important it is from an engagement point of view is to be together face to face, teams to meet again. So we gradually started shifting that back the balance. I think in our case, it's definitely not 50-50 these days. It's probably like even 90-10 or 80-20 to online training at the moment. And, we are trying to shift it back to more online. I guess the two challenges, as I mentioned, one is that sometimes, we need to deliver some of this knowledge at such a speed that, sometimes it's coming within days or a week, and that's difficult to do in a physical setup. And the second is obviously the cost consideration in the current economic environment.
Okay, thank you. And especially in case of an international company, it's much easier to get people together online than getting them travel to the same location in such a speed that you mentioned.
Réka, can I chip in, because I'm following the discussion in the chat, and there are pros and cons coming up in the discussion, that it's cheaper, it's the only viable way to meet the whole organization, 10 countries in a speedy manner. It requires a different kind of training delivery technique online. Some people say that it doesn't work in their region, stuff like this, and I would like to just put the spotlight on one very specific aspect brought by Lilyana from Ukraine, and it's a sad comment actually. In Ukraine, we practice more online because offline might be conducted only if bomb shelter is available. So the kind of shocking reality in Ukraine even impacts the learning and development practices in that sense. And thank you, Juliana, sharing for that with us. So just from our perspective, I just wanted to highlight that there are pros and cons of each approach, and what we are recommending to our customers to design in a way that we build on the benefits of both. So we recommend a blended process where we can, so that we can create bonding of people, engaging of people at the same time where technical skills or knowledge should be transferred. We are proposing online delivery method. And I just confirm what someone said, that it really requires a different kind of delivery method from training companies. So there are some trainers who just hate really online, and some people really love delivering online. It requires a little bit of different technique and different kind of skill set from trainers as well. But we can build on the benefits of both. And thanks for letting me chipping in.
Yeah, can I add something to what Csaba just mentioned? I think that blended approach is really important. And when I say blended, it's not only the combination of doing things online and in a physical setup, but also how we are blending the different learning opportunities, like training courses or training itself with coaching, mentoring, experiences, and so on, because this is where a lot of times you can bring in the more personal elements to it. So sometimes, sharing knowledge and developing certain elements of the training fast online is a good solution. But if you can combine it with some more human teaming elements, which are part of a broader program, that usually helps. That's what we try to do.
Thank you, Zoltán, and it will guide us to our actually next two topics. First, related to the length of the training, or actually the length of the instructor-led ILT programs. And you have just started to mention the blended learning, and also it was mentioned that the attention span is shrinking. It is more and more difficult to take people out of work for a long time. Long time meaning that when I joined DEVELOR and when I started to work with training, like the traditional 2-day training course was a very typical or even longer. But now, and as you can see from the results, is that 1-day training, where it's 47.3%, is or seems to be the winner in terms of the frequency, or the preferred development unit is around the 1-day training. 2 days are still there, but is significantly shrinking the ratio of the 2-day training. So it's 1 day or even less. So we're trying to squeeze the learning time into smaller units. And what I would be interested in here, because you mentioned that yes, shorter training courses, online, offline, has absolutely their relevance nowadays. But what about 2-day courses? Do we lose anything with 2-day courses? How do you see that? Is there anything basically that we lose with this shortening time of people spent on training? How do you see that? I'm really interested in that. Lilyana, what do you think?
So I would say that the future really is related to the micro learning and the bite-sized learning, but for sure the 2 days learning or even the longer learning are having their place still. But of course it should be conducted in the right way. I don't know how is the situation in other companies, but what I observe is that it's hard for our people to dedicate 2 full days for a training from the perspective of time and the workload. But not only this, but if, for example, they are going on a 2 days learning, after that, what I receive as a feedback from the trainer is that they are going out to have their conversation on the phone related to work. They're bringing their laptops. And all this stuff is actually not helping for the learning itself. So I would say we should not deny the 2 days learning, but for sure we should give all the needed to ensure actually the full dedication of the employee in order to gain the learning experience that we would like.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything that you think that we might be losing with people not spending that much time together? Because to be honest, my greatest concern is that, as Zoltán also mentioned, in this hybrid world, there is so little chance to spend some time together. I don't know, maybe we are losing that from if we cannot spend the evening together with some team building and so on. What do you think? What is your opinion about that?
For sure, the longer trainings are giving this opportunity for human touch, for discussions, for the real networking, which the online is, let's say, not giving that much opportunities on this. But as I said, it's really important how it will be given to the employee. It should be really dedicated to this training and not to overwhelm with some other activities during the training, because in this case it's just not it's not a learning, it's just participation on the event. Otherwise, yes, it's really important to have this face-to-face and human experience, but maybe it's not the training, the 2 days training that it's giving us this, but we can think for some other experiences that we can propose to our employees.
So some other ways of filling in the gap of personal touch,
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, thank you. Zoltán, is there any relevance of a 2-day training at EPAM in today's in environment in your case? Or is it totally out of the question? It's past disco age.
I hope it's not. I think it's really, really damaging that, we are shifting to very focused and very short-term micro-learning, as it was mentioned. I think if we apply a very narrow definition of the purpose of training, like knowledge transfer or skills development, I think it's hard to really argue that investing into 2 days has a good return on investment. So in terms of is ROI or just efficiency, that's really hard to argue. But I passionately believe that there is much more into it. And we talked about, the elements and the importance of, shaping organizational culture, building relationships, building a sense of belonging, and all the dynamics that are happening at the training. I think they are important, and we are losing a lot that we are trying to squeeze everything to a very efficient, short as possible hour or half an hour or 10 minutes. I think that's a very, very dangerous tendency that started, and I passionately believe that at some point it's going to come back, because we go to such extremes, and it will come back because we desperately miss that human element of it. But what I see is that when a company is investing in bringing people together for 2 days, then usually it's a combination of having a training element and then something else. At least that's what we try to do. So if you put people on planes, they are traveling and they are spending 2 or 3 days together, I think it's always important that there is some kind of learning element to it, some kind of a training, but maybe combined with some kind of a workshop discussion, maybe a meeting and so on, that justifies the reason to be together physically and the higher level of investment into a couple of days together. So that's what I see directionally, that justifying 2-3 days of training is very, very difficult. But if you say that there is a meeting, a workshop for 2 days, and there are elements of training in it, usually people buy into that much more easily.
Thank you, Zoltán. Csaba, from a training company's perspective, what is the opinion or the situation in terms of?
I just can confirm what it has been already said, that we are losing with this shorter term units the opportunity of bonding, strengthening engagement, stuff like that. I just don't want to repeat what has been already said. Well, I think we as a training company has got to be flexible, and we are flexible, meeting the demands and needs of participants and also the businesses. For example, in some cases, in some sectors, they just cannot imagine to have a 2 days training off. It's very awkward for them. For example, shared service centers or some manufacturing businesses, they can live with 1 day's units or half a day units, but they just cannot imagine 2 days training units. So we are flexible and we adapt ourselves to the needs. We truly believe that in some cases you cannot really run a half a day show or 90-minute show. For example, resolving conflicts, it won't happen in 90 minutes. So you've got to consciously select the unit of development for the needs of the participants, for the learning patterns of the participants, and also for the topic.
Thank you, Csaba. And again, it brings us to our next topic, again, still related to the world of blended learning era, because the next question was about the asynchronous forms of learning, meaning those learning elements which are independently used or done by the learners, so they can do it anytime, anywhere, independently, not led by an instructor or a trainer. So here again, the results show that online learning is getting more and more popular and is still on top. Online learning means that those courses that are available in Coursera, LinkedIn Learning, Udemy, for example, that we experience that more and more companies purchase subscriptions, for example, for these platforms, thereby providing a great variety of on-demand courses for our colleagues, which is, on the one hand, it is a great selection to provide, a great approach. Also, e-learning content, we as DEVELOR also receive more and more requests for designing content for existing learning management systems, so that you can insert and offer to colleagues. So again, this is something that the blended era is bringing, and also the video content is getting more and more to the top, because again, people prefer more the video, the narrated, the more engaging and immersive contents compared to the long text that they have to read. So on the one hand, it's again was not a surprise, and as you mentioned earlier, it is the question of the topic, whether it should be online or offline, instructor-led or on-demand, and also the method, how it is interpreted and how it is presented to the learners to keep them engaged to the learning. And by saying keeping them engaged in the learning, is that there is interesting that fortunately, the internet has broken down the barriers of learning, not just colleagues meeting online who are in other countries, but it seems that the learning itself has no boundaries anymore. By those courses that are offered in Coursera or Udemy, or even big universities offer courses that we can enroll ourselves, or the company can enroll us. But the statistics say that the effectiveness of such totally independent online learning is not as high as it was expected. So here again, let me invite you for a short mini survey. My question is the following to you. Again, please use the chat. Have you ever been enrolled into a course in any of the platforms that I have mentioned? Coursera, Udemy, LinkedIn Learning. Either courses that your company offered or courses that you purchased for yourself, for your hobby maybe. So please write in the chat, simple yes or no. I really would like to map our experience in full on-demand online learning here.
Yes, lots of yeses are coming. Udemy, LinkedIn Learning, Coursera, LinkedIn. So lots of yes.
Lots of yeses. Okay. My second question is that what percentage of these courses did you finish? My answer is maximum 10, to be honest.
Oh,
How
I'm seeing zeros, almost none of them, 0. More than 80%. Diana Golesh is very, very thorough. 100%, 50,
100%. Good job, Laszlo. Thank you. You were probably higher than the average statistics, 80%, more than 80. Oh, I see some participants here who are more disciplined or focused than the average. Oh, so it's from 0 to 100%. So great variety of the completion rates. That's pretty cool. I think this group is above the average, to be honest.
There are some critical people as well admitting 0, 5, 30% or something like that.
Learning and development specialists.
You just remember the good ones and you remember only the nice memories. Maybe you're just forgetting or try to forget the boring and never finished courses.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so but really seriously, and thank you for your honesty, even those who said 0, because related to again some statistics about the how much people complete what they start, and the source is mainly from Udemy, is that it says that 97% is the drop-off rate of courses on Udemy. So many people, even though they start, they just do not finish what they started if it's not supported by someone, a real person or a coach or and so on. 70% doesn't even begin the course, even though it is purchased for themselves or the hobby. So 7% does not begin. If they begin, around 30% of the content is what is, covered, and then people drop off. And in case of university courses, which is really surprising for me, so in case of courses that universities offer, the average completion rate is only 4%. So from that, we sense that it is absolutely great that we have access to these courses. But if it's not supported by someone, if there is no someone who can motivate us and bring us and nudge us to continue and do and have consultations and so on, there is a great trap in the fully online classes. So it's, yeah, our group is better in that case. Okay, thank you again for your honesty and answer to that. And going to the next topic was about the training budget. So what is the expectations related to the training budget in 2024? The majority of the respondents said that they either expect the same budget this year or some increase, 10 or even over 20% increase in the training budget, and only a smaller part of the respondents said that they rather expect some budget cut or budget decrease. Now, what it says to me is that hopefully and luckily we see a tendency in the growing learning and development or training budgets after the big cuts during the COVID era. So I believe it is a great perspective. And I had the idea that it might also be related to the importance of the learning and development and HR, because many times the bigger the budget, the more important that particular area is. And my assumption was somehow a bit supported by the most updated or recent report of LinkedIn's Workplace Learning Report 2024, which again showed us what we have been experiencing for a couple of years, that learning and development's voice and importance is growing. Because during COVID, definitely, we heard from many of our clients in HR that leaders and directors turned to HR to do something with the situation, and thereby their importance changed, and they got more into the the more strategic position in case of importance. So first, let me ask our guests, what is the situation? Can you relate to that? Can you experience that in your companies? Or it is totally different from what this particular statistics say? So Lilyana, what do you think? Is it something that you experience in Nestle, or it's not the case in your company?
I would say that in the last decade, the HR function is really operating as the heart of our company. So I would not say that there is a significant change in the last years for us.
So it's not significant change.
No, it's something that is happening quite a period in the company already.
Zoltán, how about you and EPAM? Do you see any change in the importance or role of HR in the company?
I think at this point of time, it's very difficult to answer this. I certainly see what you have said as a valid observation, that during COVID and the last 2 or 3 years, the importance certainly increased. So that's certainly a place around the table, or a stronger voice, because there was a lot about people and the expertise, the knowledge, the experience of managing people. The human side of an organization became very, very important. I think at this point, we are at a stage where, in the current economic environment, we have another test, because we kept saying that people are the most important asset of the company. People are important, but in the context of saving lives, that was probably an easy argument. Now we have that kind of conflict, that yes, people are important, but also business performance is important and costs are important. And then I think more and more leaders are pushed into the corner to make some difficult choices, and that's the real measure of how important people really are, when you need to have a dollar figure to it. So I would say it's a bit early to call, but next year is going to be very interesting to see whether that trend of sustaining the importance of the people elements, or the human elements of running a business stays, or this cost-driven, KPI-driven approach is going to prevail. I certainly see, some signs that there is a risk for that. And if you think about, some of the, talking about HR, so many people are still talking about Dave Ulrich and what he's talking about. And, if you look at the most read person in there, and, this is really talking about being a business partners, developing on KPIs. And if most of the KPIs are about revenue and margin and profitability and so on, then you can have a voice, but how important it is, that's a bit questionable. So maybe that's a bit like cynical or pessimistic view, but I think we had a couple of glorious years because of the unfortunate developments around us, but we need to fight really, really hard to keep that voice and then, sit around the table in the coming year or 2 years.
No, I do not find it cynical at all, because what we also experience that HR has to balance, as you mentioned, between offering people and keeping the people in the center of the thinking versus the budget and the business requirements. And it is really a very thin line, and the really, really challenging thing to manage all these pressures. I would say it's a pressure from both sides, from the people and from the business, and find some kind of a balance and a good win-win situation in that, I guess. Okay, here again, I'm really much interested in the situation here in the audience about the importance of HR and L&D. At the beginning, in Csaba's map, we ask you to use the annotations, these little icons, to show where you are from and where you are calling from. Now I'm asking you the same, so please use the annotation and just put a sign to the section where you see or assess that your area has changed of importance, if it has changed in any way. Moderately, strongly. So we sense some kind of change. There are no signs at the moment at the not at all section. So, and mostly what I see is the strongly, some totally of the importance, which again indicates that HR and L&D has more and more voice, and hopefully it will remain the same or get even stronger in the upcoming years, because as we could all see during this presentation and your whole life, that we are not lack of challenges in the companies where HR can have a significant and important role. Okay. Thank you so much. I'm kindly asking my colleagues to clear the screen as we turn to the last topic and the last question in our survey, which was related to the trainers, because again, we experience that more and more companies work not only with external trainer partners, but have an internal training pool. And as the chart and the results show that most of the respondents said that this is a mixture when it comes to training, whether to use internal or external trainer partners. And those who answered either like only internal, only external are a bit less. But what I see from here is that, again, a mixture of internal or external trainers. So again, my last question to our guest, that what is the situation in your companies when it comes to training? Do you have internal trainers, external trainers? So what is the current best practice? Let's say Lilyana in Nestle.
In Nestle, we are using the combination approach. We are working with a strong internal network of trainers that we try to keep up to date, and to have them as reliable internal trainers. And from other side, we use some external trainers in order to keep our organization up to date with the new trends, with the new ideas that are on the market that are related to learning and development. So for us, this is the way which works best, and we for sure don't have plans to change this. We really like this approach, and we think it's really something that works great.
Thank you, Lilyana. This is actually what is coming from the chat as well. So many of the respondents in the chat says they use the mixed approach as well. Zoltán, how about you and EPAM?
I would love to say we use the mix approach, and that's probably true, but I think the mix is quite, shifting to internal resources. That's probably part of the company's unique culture. So, we started as a classic, startup company and grow into something big, but still passionately want to stay and keep that kind of spirit. And as a result, we tend to build everything ourselves, not only our technology infrastructure, but also our functions, whether that's talent acquisition or learning and development. So in our case, it's probably like 90-10. a lot of this is really in-house and inside. And even if we see something really interesting, we very often in-source it and bring our own solution or hire the people to build it for us. I'm not saying that this is a best practice. I think this is one way to do this, and I think it certainly has some risks and disadvantages in terms of flexibility, in terms of quality. It certainly has the advantage of better control and probably higher speed in some cases. But I think, you see the pros and cons, and we are one of the probably on the extreme end of the spectrum, using a lot of internal resources and limited external.
Thank you, Zoltán. Csaba, how do you see that from a training company's perspective? Internal trainers might be our competition, or what's the situation here?
Yes, sometimes it is perceived that we are competitors, but we are not actually. Wherever there are internal trainers, we work in collaboration. They have their own expertise and strengths, and we try to build on that, and we try to collaborate with them. Sometimes even, and it's kind of common practice, they come to us to develop them. So we are providing on-the-job coaching and also developing company-specific know-how and training courses. And we do the train-the-trainer session, and we teach them, and we hand it over for operations. So sometimes internal training teams don't have the capacity to develop new courses. They don't have the capacity or internal resource to develop themselves. And that's why we come into the picture. So we collaborate and we support them and we develop them. They are not competitors, they are colleagues working in the company.
Thank you so much, Csaba and Lilyana and Zoltán, and for all of our participants for your active commenting and participating in this webinar. We come to the end of the official part. So I give back the word to Csaba and also to you. If you have any questions or comments, we are happy to answer that at this point. So on my end, thank you again.
Thank you so much for Zoltán, Lilyana, and Réka to introduce this the survey results, commenting on the survey result. Thank you very much for sharing your comments in the chat. It was a very active chat. We have a very limited time for questions, maybe 1-2 questions. And I'm in the meanwhile, I'm projecting the QR codes for following us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. It's really worthwhile because we are sending information about the novelties, inspirational articles. I think it's we are operating a really educational and inspiring channels on social media. So let's take a few questions if there's any in the. Thank you for this session. I'm checking whether any opinion on gamification of learning. I think it's an interesting question. Maybe we have a time for that. Who can chip in? Either Réka, Lilyana, or Zoltán. So gamification. What's your view on that in learning?
Oh, we are passionate. We are very passionate about this and use this very extensively, even for some of the more mandatory and compliance type of training. So yeah, I think we invest a lot into this and do a lot of that. And I guess probably it's also a bit generational, so it's going to be increasingly important for future generations.
Thank you. How about in Nestle, Lilyana?
It's pretty much the same. We use it a lot, especially in the mandatory trainings that we have, the corporate mandatory trainings, and our system that it's actually hosting all our e-learning solutions is full of e-learnings that are somehow gamified. And we really looking forward to every new e-learning that we create to have this gamification element in order to make it more attractive and more interactive for our employees.
Thank you so much. Actually, for DEVELOR, learning memorable is one of our promise statements. So we are really for gamification, and we are developing more and more gamified training courses and solutions for that. Please follow us on the social media. Our colleagues shared the links in the chat box as well. And I would like to just draw your attention in the coming up local events in Hungary, Poland, Slovakia, and Czechia. The learning and development trends and the local results are on the table and on the agenda for the coming coming webinars. And you can see that there are other topics such as the generational diversity. There will be a business fest in Bratislava, and also Hungary. We are going to talk about sales and the AI in the coming weeks. Again, thank you so much for everybody who contributed to our today's webinar with completing our survey, answering our questions in the in-depth discussion and interviews. And as promised, we will distribute and we will share the results and the report of the survey with everybody who completed. And we are going to give you a summary for the participants as well. Thank you so much for being with us. It's exactly 12:30 in Central European times. We asked for your time and attention for this time. And thank you so much for joining us. And let's see each other on the Rethink HR 18th webinar coming in May, I think. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you so much for your attention. And thanks again for Réka, Lilyana, and Zoltán joining us, sharing their views and experiences. Thank you so much for your time, and have a wonderful day. Get inspiration and build whatever you heard today into your conscious strategy of learning and development in 2024. Thank you once again. Goodbye.